Morning glory and evening grace, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt on the Big Friday podcast, which becomes the Big Saturday podcast. Ben Domenech is my guest, editor-at-large for The Spectator, Fox News contributor extraordinary. He'll be on special report tonight. Ben, I want to begin with a compliment, a suggestion, and a criticism. The compliment is Big Ben is fabulous. I listened and I thought, you could go Rogan with that show. You've got chops. And that's because you can interview. It's a skill set. Not a lot of people can talk. Not many people can interview. And you had on both John Rogers and David Wag, and they were great interviews. I mean, fabulous interviews.
Well, thank you, Hugh. I really appreciate it. I'm awaiting the sandwich of criticism.
It'll come. Let me give you the suggestion. When you interview an author like Mr. Wag, his book is An Abundance of Caution. I'm going to find it, get one for free, and talk to him. Name the name of the title of the book at least 7 times. That's a Frank Luntz rule.
Yeah,
no one remembers.
I apologize. That is actually, I had that own self-criticism at the end. I was like, I didn't say the book often enough. Should have said it more often.
Yeah, Frank says if you don't say it 7 times. So I always begin with an author. So we're here to talk about abundance of caution. If I don't say abundance of caution 7 times, no one will say abundance of caution. It becomes a joke. It's a repeating joke. Now, really, a Pacers shout out. Really, Ben? A Pacers shout out. I will lay me down and bleed a while and then rise to fight again.
Okay. In my defense, the wonderful man who is also Guy Benson's board man, who my team is Guy's team, so I really appreciate how great they've been, given that I'm a much less nice person than Guy Benson, which is
we all are.
You could say about anybody.
Yeah, we all are.
So he is a Pacers fan. He wears Pacers gear. He is like a dedicated.
Fire him! Fire him! They played like they had baseball bats. I think they had shanks. They actually took Darius out of the first game like with a body slam. They're just rotten people from Indiana.
Razor blades in their armpits. That's yes,
exactly. That's so. I'm telling you, it was world wrestling, and I got to say, I heard that we're doing Pacers talk on Big Ben, and you saved it for the end, so you tricked me. It was all the way at the end, you tricked me.
I built you up, and only to do something like that. Well, Hugh, I apologize for that, but look, I believe in supporting staff, and it's one of these things where hey.
All right, let's go to the John Rogers. John, you get to put a question in. You asked about people. I've lost three friends have ghosted me since Trump won, and one was very very close.
Same then. I've got 2. So you're at this. I'm sure I'll get to 3.
Well, I thought your discussion was fascinating. Give us your theory of why this has happened. The demo who ghosts people is primarily white women with a college degree, but it's not limited to that. It's left and center-left people generally, but really among white women with a college degree are just cutting off people based upon politics. What's the Uber theory, Ben Domenech?
My own theory, and this is, I'm really happy that he was willing to, put that question in, because it's kind of an odd question to put in a political survey. You don't really see things like that asked a lot. But one of the reasons that I think it's happening is that it's not just that you are a friend with that person. It's that your friend group decides that this person is not acceptable to have in the wine book club anymore. Meaning that it's not just a matter of individuals. It's basically saying, if you're a Republican, you're part of the out group. And so we can't get together and talk about White Lotus. We can't get together and talk about, our husbands and things like that. And instead, I think what you're seeing is, the left reacting to this latest situation in a way that is actually more deeply disturbing to me than protesting in the streets. Protesting in the streets, that's something that always, has happened politically, historically, et cetera. That's something that is, an exercise of democracy. But when it comes to breaking off friendships with your friends and neighbors, basically saying, I'm not going to be there to help you out if your tire is flat. I'm not going to be there to help you out if you're going through something in your life. I'm not going to be there for you during the divorce or during the miscarriage or something like that. That's actually worse, Hugh. It's much worse. It's not something that is good for America. And unfortunately, it seems like it's really coming from that one direction. And I think that is only going to continue apace as we approach the midterms and things get even more competitive.
I like to ask guys. I have never, ever been pulled over for drinking. I don't drink. But who would you call if you got a DUI? That's really the test of who do you trust the most. And
well, I'll tell you one thing. I've never gotten a DUI, but I did have a stop years and years ago where the guy said, you admitted to having a drink with your dinner. You didn't test, but we need somebody to drive you home. I knew immediately who I was going to call.
See?
And he picked me up, and and I was just like, they won't let me go home. I got to call a cab or I got to call a friend. And I was like, well, I'll just call a friend because he lives 6 blocks over. And he came right over, picked me up, and as soon as he picked me up, he admitted, oh yeah, I had like 5 beers before I came to pick you up. So you actually have to drive the rest of the way. And I said, oh, come on.
All right. Now, this is going to be
15 years ago, so the statute of limitations is far gone.
I'm digging into the weeds now on this. Is there a difference between people who have in this house signs, people who have be nice signs, and people who have BLM signs?
I think that there actually are some differences there because I think the in this house sign is the most performative, meaning, it is something where, and there are different versions of it. By the way, I don't know if you've actually seen it, but have you seen the Catholic version of it?
No.
Yeah, the Catholic version of it has the creed.
Oh, I want that.
Yes, yeah. No, some church started putting them out, and people. There's like 2 of them in my neighborhood. I love it. But the thing that is interesting about it to me is that that's kind of you have to believe all of these things. You can't just believe that, it's much more aggressive than like a coexist.
Oh, the be nice sign. I'm so tempted to get a supply of please take down this signs because I won't touch anybody's sign, but I might want to put that up next to some signs. Please take down this sign because it's aggressive. It's like you have to believe all of these things. Imagine, Hugh, as much as you could say that I should fire our Guy Benson's board producer and mine, if you had something, if you have something outside your house that says, blank fan's not welcome here. We all have a good. Well, he's not welcome here. You tell him right now, I want him fired. I have a jihad against that man. Next week it would have been fine, but they lost 3 games at home to those brutes.
The point is that when I say I hate the Dallas Cowboys, Hugh, I hate the Dallas Cowboys, okay? But I still have 2 friends still in my life, some of my oldest friends who are Dallas Cowboys fans.
Oh, yeah. Selena Zito is on every week, and she's a Steelers fan.
It's great.
Oh, yeah. Now let me talk to you about the fact that this is a religion for them. That came out in your conversation. Bill Barr made the same argument in One Damn Thing After Another, that secular absolutism has become the equivalent of a religion and ought to be treated as an establishment of religion in the schools. What do you think of that argument?
I think it's completely true. And I think that Barr was sort of on this, in a way that I really believe is reflected in our societal groupthink today on the left. And it's one of the reasons, by the way, why I think you see the attitudes of people who once pretended to be mainstream. Stephen Colbert this week, for instance, saying, Republicans can eat a and that kind of thing. It's like you pretended to be a mainstream comic. You had a ton of fans who were actually on the right, including myself.
I did his show. I thought he was a normal guy.
Exactly. And then something happened in you and it broke you, and you now have this attitude that basically is, and this is a guy who, puts his religion front and center, has talked about, that being a key element of his life, and yet he is espousing this level of hate against an entire half of the country. And I don't think Democrats are going to win that way. I do not think that they're going to win that way. And I want to
play, before we go to our break, I want to play a clip that I stole from Big Ben's podcast, which you can find on Apple, Spotify. You can pay for it without commercials if you subscribe to the Fox News podcast thing, but I don't do that. Ronnie Chin, let's play that, please.
I feel like I've been spending most of my life trying to get to America, to be very honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just weird. It's a weird time to do it because the things that attracted me to America were, it was It was Back to the Future. It was Seinfeld. It was Michael Jordan. It wasn't the Iraq War.
Right.
So it's weird to join. It's like you're joining this empire, this evil empire, but that's not what you joined it for. It
Right.
just so happened the evil empire had some really nice TV shows, and they do stand-up comedy in the Death Star.
Yeah.
So a Daily Show correspondent, I stopped on the road. I wrote it down. A Daily Show correspondent thinks America's an evil empire. I'm going to talk with Ben during the break. If you want to hear it, you're going to have to actually listen to my podcast, Highly Concentrated Hugh. But I got to get his reaction to this because it was stunning. Stand by, America. I'll be right back after the break. I got to finish early today with Ben Domenech because he's got to go downtown for the Brett Baer Death March across the Middle East. Brett is a bionic man, and he's going to do another special report tonight. So tell me, when you heard that, did someone bring that to your attention, or did you hear that and stop in your tracks, Ben?
So a friend of mine flagged it for me who listens to a lot of the Hollywood podcasts, which is, it was on a Variety podcast, I believe, where these types of folks go. I listened to it, and I was aghast because it's like, this. Look, I guess I shouldn't be surprised at this point, but there is this certain idea that just based on who the current president is, or what the current political dynamic is, cultural dynamic, that means that you can just turn around and say, the United States is an evil empire, and we should hate it. And we should hate it like we hate space fascists and things like that from Star Wars. Andor, by the way, excellent conclusion this week. But the thing that is, the thing that really sticks out to me is this is someone who says this having the immigrant experience of becoming an American. And from my perspective, I think that's something that is a rotten core to the way that the left thinks about this country in a way that I'm not sure is going to go away quickly. And if you look at the data on how younger Democrats basically agree with that sentiment, a significant portion of them, you can ask the question different ways, and even a majority in some of the polls say that they agree that America is not a force for good, or they're not proud to be an American, or, there are different ways to ask it. That's not a good thing for the country. We want to be able to, I'm sorry, I didn't stop being proud to be an American when Barack Obama got elected.
No, at the beginning, I was more proud. I wrote a column when he was inaugurated. We elect black people here. Don't tell me that we're a racist country.
Yeah, exactly. It's just the thing. I recall a conversation with one of the most conservative people that I know in politics, a good friend of mine who I've known for a long time. And when Barack Obama got elected, we had a conversation about a year and a half later. And I said, do you think he's going to win re-election? And he said, I would hate to think what would have to happen to the country for him to lose, in terms of how negative it would be, because I think that people are proud of the fact that this was something that could happen in America. And I think he was right. I think that there is something about the fact that, people can look at each other across the political aisle and say there are certain things that are a good demonstration of what we do together as a country when we decide our leaders. And that is something that we should be able to take pride in, regardless of whether our side is winning or losing, or whether the people that you like are up or down.
Well, I want everyone to go and listen to the entire conversation on Big Ben, the brand new podcast. By the way, I was just shamelessly dropping your name to Sam Feist. They're starting a new show on C-SPAN called Ceasefire. And I think you and Continenty and Guy Benson and Mary Catherine Ham and Michael Singleton, we got lots of smart people. Bethany Mandel, the Ruthless Crowd. We need all of our young 40-somethings covering the bases because the old guys are getting old. Ben Domenech, downtown with you. Thank you for the time today. Talk to you next week.
Bye.